Hey everybody, and welcome to Old Roommates. Today on the show, we revisit the classic 1980s The Shining. Sorry, Christine.
Sorry.
So, grab an axe and your typewriter. The show is about to begin.
Welcome everyone to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Christina.
And this is Brian.
And we revisited The Shining. So, it's very, it's one of these movies, I think, that just has so many taglines. Like, people refer to it still. Do you think it's kind of one of those weird things? Like,
yeah, it's
here's
super.
Johnny! Like,
yeah, exactly. Very
so I'm glad we had a chance to revisit this.
Yeah.
So, Brian, tell me about your first viewing of The Shining.
I will, but first I want to give a quick disclaimer. This movie has documentaries made about it. It has commentaries on the documentaries made about it. It's been written up so many times. There's all this lore about, the making of the movie and all this kind of stuff. This is not that podcast. I just don't. I want to level set. I want to level set because I was like, I just toyed with like some of this stuff, and so I'm like, this is too much. This episode would be 3 hours long. So
for sure.
This is not the podcast. We are truly just rewatching this through our middle-aged lens. The first time to your
And
question.
it's our opinions.
It's our opinion.
This
yeah.
isn't, we are just two ordinary people that like to watch movies. We're just ordinary people. We watch movies and we have opinions about it. So
we rewatch.
we're not in the industry. We're just normal, everyday people.
I was going back to our Indecent Proposal episode.
Yeah.
And we were really kind of shitting on the script. And I was like, is it fair? Like, you and I have never written a script. But you know what I thought? I was like, we've never written a script. But at least we didn't write Indecent Proposal.
Shit, no
yeah,
kidding,
right? I felt good about it.
No kidding.
So here we go.
And then wait, wasn't that the one?
It was Amy Holden
Jones. Was that
Jones.
the one that had like 5 writers? Oh no, that was Stepmom.
No, that's Stepmom. In Indecent Proposal, Amy Holden Jones, she wrote Mystic Pizza. She knows how to write.
Yeah.
She knows how to write multiple great stories.
We're not writers.
Yeah,
we're
and
not
I'm not being too nasty.
We are just two normal people who just have opinions about movies. Yeah. So, whatever.
It was no Mystic Pizza. That's what I'll say, okay? So here we go. The Shining. The first time, getting back to your question, I ever saw The Shining, I swear to God, maybe I am just crazy.
You are.
Christina, I swear to God I saw The Shining on TV. On like one of those Channel 56, TV 38. I was probably a young teen. Because when this came out, I was 8, okay? Mm-hmm. I definitely didn't see it in a movie theater.
You don't think it was like HBO or something like that?
You know why? We talked about this with some of the other horror movies from the 70s and stuff that we visited. I know The Shining's technically 80, but the reason why, there were 2 reasons when I was growing up why I was able to watch a horror movie, just emotionally watch it.
Right.
My sister was with me. She was 2 years younger than me, and she always watched the most scariest movies ever, Terry. And then the other thing is that sometimes horror movies were on Saturday afternoons, Channel 56 or TV 38. Creature Double Feature.
Right.
But there was a morph to that where over time it just became scary movies.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I was able to watch The Shining and not be disturbed for life is because they were commercials.
Yeah.
Like I said, I talked about this with Halloween 2, Halloween 1 also, where it's like you see a scary moment and then it cuts to a commercial. So you have that as a kid. It's kind of cool to watch. I mean, I say this now. I don't know if I felt it then, but I think there's a nice idea behind horror movies with commercials.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of a break, because sometimes that level of intensity can be a lot.
Well, and I'm sure they cut some things
out
absolutely.
As well.
Oh,
yeah. I mean.
So it's also a little bit,
Yeah.
Whitewashed or whatever.
So I will say with The Shining, whether I saw it on VHS with my sister, or whether I saw it on Channel 38 or Channel 56 in Boston, I just remember being so terrified of Jack Nicholson that it permeated everything else I watched. Like even growing up, where I would watch I'm trying to think of Heartburn or something. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm like, oh God. He just he scared me forevermore.
Well, he hasn't face.
He has that face, the eyebrows.
He has a scary face. Like, even like Witches of Eastwick, right?
Yeah.
Like, he has that face of a devil.
Yeah. But I will say, as a kid, I remember everyone scaring me a little. Even the little kid. Even Shelley Duvall. No, I mean in the movie. Oh my God. In the movie, I think all the cast, they all looked a little scary.
Every single person in that movie.
That's my take. It was really scary. There are images that stayed with me. Lines of dialogue stayed with me all this time. I don't think I've seen this movie in 30 years. Mm-hmm. So that's me. How about you, Christina?
So I watched this. I think we talked about this before, where when I was in college, it wasn't a normal, like, everyday occurrence, but I feel like we would have these sort of get-togethers. I wouldn't even call it a party. It wasn't like a ton of people, but there would be get-togethers. We would be drinking and probably usually smoking and stuff, and we would put on a movie, and I feel like more often than not, it was like a scary movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that happened, but The Shining is definitely one of the ones. That was when I first saw The Shining, is during this. So it wasn't actually a great atmosphere to, like, sit and actually watch a movie, like, mm-hmm. from beginning to end. So I missed a lot. I forget what movie it was. What was the one I feel like it was recent. It was maybe in the last couple of months. It was the same idea. That it was like I watched it at one of these get-togethers. But anyway,
yeah.
So I remember this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it being scary. I don't remember everything about it. I don't know if I sat through the first, like, 45 minutes of just dialogue. Do you know what I mean? Like, I might have just been, drinking or something during that first part. I definitely remember all the hotel part, like when they're actually in the hotel, and those scary things that were happening I remember the little boy. I thought he was, like, scarier than Jack Nicholson at many times.
Yep.
What's funny now, thinking about it, for some reason, Shelley Duvall did not really make a huge impression on me.
Interesting.
And, for some reason, I don't know why I didn't remember her as much.
Yeah.
But I obviously remembered Jack Nicholson and Scatman Crothers.
Of course.
So I remember those main characters, and I agree. Like, they were all pretty terrifying. Mm-hmm. Even Scatman Crothers, like,
he's the good guy.
He's the good guy.
And
but he's represented at the beginning as such a weird, creepy man. Like, he's, like, talking to him, like, the boy and all this. Like, you just get the idea that at the beginning, especially, that he's just something is going on there. So I remember a lot of course, the iconic lines and the twins and like all of those, like, scary flashes and things. I remembered all of that, and I remembered most of the ending. I have to admit, I forgot what happened with the mother and child. I'm like,
oh really?
I'm like,
I didn't. I didn't.
And full disclosure, I watched this last night with my husband, and I fell asleep.
Christina!
But it was only the last few minutes. And it was actually really funny because it was literally, like, probably 5 minutes that I fell asleep because it was late and it's a long movie. Yeah. And I had a busy weekend anyway, but I woke up and it was, like, the very, 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 like, it was literally 5 minutes. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, Matt, what happened to the mother and child? I'm like, I completely forgot. And he's like, oh, well, she, got killed. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, I kind of remember that she didn't die, but I still was like, wait, what? And I'm like, I forget what happened. And he's like, oh, he ran out of the man. I'm like, oh, yeah. And it came back to me afterwards. Yeah. He's like, you really fell asleep? I'm like, it was only for, like, 5 minutes.
So he was kidding about Shelley Duvall dying.
Yes, he was. Wow. He was kidding. He's really cute. I'm like, honey, I'm half asleep. Please don't do this to me. So anyway, I remember it being scary is basically what it was. I didn't remember a whole lot of, like, the backstory about it.
No, yeah. So you watched it last night.
So I watched it last night.
I watched it last night also.
So funny. Yeah. With my husband. You're such a copycat. And so tell me what thoughts, your initial thoughts?
This is crazy. Overall note, I didn't take that many notes. which is funny for a note. But like,
That's a funny
for a
note.
2.5 hour movie, I didn't take a whole lot of notes. I do think, I will say my sort of consistent note here, there's two.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really sorry to say this if there's any fans of the movie. I don't think it holds up well. Two things are responsible for this, and it's the one is the very thing that was so scary to me as a kid, Jack Nicholson.
Mm-hmm.
I said to Carl, I was like, I feel like this is the story about a man who turns into Jack Nicholson. because everything that Jack Nicholson we know now, whether it's through Witches of Eastwick with 8 years later, Witches of Eastwick, like I mentioned, like A Few Good Men, all of these like As Good as It Gets, About Schmidt, all these movies with Jack is just like Jack, baby, and like. At times I felt like he was impersonating Robin Williams. At times, and I understand that people are probably listening to this going, yeah, he's going crazy. He was going crazy. Mm-hmm. But I think because now, and I know it was effective then, I said that early on, like it was very scary then. When you rewatch it now, I think it's hard to lose yourself into thinking that this is a character and this is not just Jack Nicholson hamming it up in the Jack Nicholson way. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. It does make sense.
It was a big negative for me because I was not scared.
Interesting.
I wasn't scared.
So I was able to separate it a little bit more, maybe because he had quite an impact on you when you were a child.
Yeah.
So you're trying to live up to that level of scary in your mind a little bit. But I felt like he was effective. So my overall note was also a little bit like what you're saying. It didn't really hold up. And so but the Jack Nicholson stuff, it did for me, but the problem that I had with the Jack Nicholson stuff was more the reaction from the Shelley Duvall character that didn't make sense to me. Because I'm seeing this guy. So the very beginning of this movie, Jack Nicholson is as un-Jack Nicholson as you could possibly be. He is so polite.
Yes.
And he talks slowly and he's just very mellow, kind of like boring, right? Very uncharismatic. He's as un-Jack as you can possibly imagine. I'm like, wow, this is so interesting to watch him like this. And for him to change as much as he did into this, crazy guy, and for her to not really react as much, that to me was a little bit strange. Like that was, I was like, I don't know, like if my husband is as mellow as he was, and then he's saying, get the fuck out of here.
I have that exact quote.
I'm like, does he normally talk to her this way? Because she was like, okay.
No, well,
like she was
frozen. She was frozen. Like, what?
But she also left. But she wouldn't have said anything. Like, what's going on?
Well, so I struggled a lot with her character too. I mean, there's again talking about the history and the lore of this movie is that she was horrifically mistreated on the set by Stanley Kubrick. That scene where she's holding the baseball bat, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, later.
Sure.
That is in the history book, the Guinness World History book, Guinness Book of World Records. He made her reshoot that scene. One moment, everyone. 127 times.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Because I remember when I was like, she's shaking so bad with the bat, and like she really is not very convincingly swinging it either.
Right.
Like she had done it 127 takes.
Oh my god.
That's in Guinness Book of World Records.
That's
he was
horrible.
Horrible to her to scare her basically. Yeah. And but all that to say, I think what my issue was, and Carl actually had a bigger issue than I did, was that like. I didn't find a gradual change. It was like 1 month later. And Christina, there were a couple of quick cuts in this movie, and I laughed out loud. It didn't have the same effect on me as it did then. Like, it says 1 month later, and it kind of cuts to Jack Nicholson in this, like, winter sweater, right? Mm-hmm. And he's just staring out the window, and his eyebrows are, like practically breaking the forehead. You know, I mean, like, it's like he looks crazed. That's a
when
quick.
he was watching her and him playing
the snow, right? Yeah. And there's that one, and there's another one where it's just him in the snow, frozen at the very end.
Right.
And I laughed both times, and I'm like, I don't know why this isn't scary. I'm watching it at night. It's a cold winter's night. Like, it was actually super cold last night, so it was like I was in a mood to kind of be scared. I was excited to watch it. And I don't know, just these things became sort of laughable. But I think the thing that you're saying is like where he's like, he does things like, he's like, why don't you start by getting the fuck out of here? And it cuts to her face and she's shocked. Mm-hmm. I agree with you to the point of, I don't think she just went along with it. I think she was fucking scared.
Yeah, but it was just like, but nothing really strange has happened until this moment. So it's not like, I don't know. It was just a very strange thing for your husband to say to you out of the blue.
Yes, and we remember that he had a drinking problem. He broke the kid's, shoulder? Or he hurt the kid's shoulder?
Yes.
So
there's a weird timeline situation with that,
too. A little bit, yeah, because what was he, 1 year old? Like, so it's like, right, because it was like...
Well, at one point, she says it was 5 months ago.
Oh, no, I thought someone said 3 years ago.
She originally, when she's talking to the doctor, she said it was 5 months ago because right after it happened, he stopped
quit
drinking. So he hasn't had a drink in 5 months. Then and we'll get back to what you're saying.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
And then there was a 1 month later, and he's talking to the bartender saying it's been 5 months. I'm like, no, actually it's been 6 months now because it's been a month. And then he starts telling the story to the guy, and he's saying that it happened 2 years ago. And I'm like, but you stopped drinking because of that happening.
Right.
And now you're saying it happened 2 years ago, but you haven't been drinking in 5 or 6 months.
And you wonder.
So it was very strange. But then Matt was, because I mentioned it, and Matt was like, well, he's going crazy. He's psycho. But either way, it doesn't line up.
I didn't read the book. Did you?
I didn't either, no.
And I wonder, so this is...
Stephen King book.
This is a little personal, but my dad, this is 1,000% real and weird and true. My father came home drunk, like, not a big surprise, like when I was a little kid, and we were like roughhousing, which is, we usually did. He broke my arm. My mother freaked out.
Oh my God.
And she's like, you do not tell your grandparents. Don't tell your grandparents that you're dead. Just say you were, you fell down and all this kind of stuff, because they didn't like that my dad drank so much. By the way, P.S., my grandparents are dead and my father's dead too. So, I'm fine. Yeah. But it was like, but I remember, and I, when that was happening, when they said 2 years, 5 months going, like, and it was like, oh my God. And maybe that was the lie they agreed to if people were to ask.
Yeah.
Because it's much scarier to imagine he broke, is it his shoulder, right? He broke his shoulder? Because that's when Tony appeared, right?
No, Tony appeared not at that point, because she asked about that too. And she's like, when did he start doing this Tony thing? Yeah. And she's like, when we enrolled him in the nursery school.
Okay.
So it wasn't related to that.
Oh my God.
And if it was a lie, like, what's the lie?
Well, the lie is that maybe it really happened when he was 3 and not 6, however old he is. Breaking a 3-year-old's shoulder drunk is, so that's what I was saying is I was like 6 or 7 years old when that happened. But like, it's, but to imagine a drunk dad breaking a 3-year-old's, right? Yeah. How old is that kid? I'm always wrong with the ages. How old do you think that kid is?
I would say he's probably 5 or 6.
6, yeah. So a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old drunk dad breaking his shoulder, or hurting him, drunk is, I think, that's a bigger deal if a doctor were to hear that story. But I guess the doctor would have had to have heard that story. I don't know. But maybe it's the lie they tell so people don't think he was that abusive. Maybe, and then when this stuff's happening, she's like, oh, shit. It was
so funny how she was like, yeah, he was drinking and he was drunk. And I'm like, Jesus, don't hold back. Like, there was no shame in it, like in her voice at all when she was... It was so
And when it cut to the doctor, you knew it was... When the doctor, like, she was like, oh, like, she could tell, like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's because maybe she's told that lie so many times, that's why she's so calm about it. Well, he was drinking, but he doesn't drink anymore.
It was so funny. Oh my God.
There's so many messed up acting choices in this and weird line readings. Even Scatman Crothers, who's the good guy, his line readings. There's scenes where he's on the phone talking to the guy who has the snowmobile thing, right? The snow cat, whatever it's called, and he is reading lines as if it's the first time he's ever said them out of a script. Like, I'm not shitting on his performance, but it's not very good.
Well, it's interesting because, like, I felt like it was jarring, like, a lot of this, and I'm sorry, but Shelley Duvall was, like, a huge part of the criticisms that I have with the line reading and things. Now that I know that she was abused on set, like, I feel a little bit more sympathetic towards it.
She was nominated for a Razzie when this came out, right? And after all this stories came out about how Kubrick treated her, they rescinded her nomination. Yeah, because they felt
nice.
bad. Yeah,
that was
they felt
nice.
bad about that.
But I was like, it just seemed like with this type of movie, they would have paid more attention to that stuff. I mean, it was a pretty big budget, right?
Christina, it was $19 million, which is pretty big for 1980. The other thing, in my other note, well, I have a few other notes.
Well, let me ask you this. Because you said there were 2 reasons.
Yes.
Are you coming to the second
No.
one? Okay. I didn't want you to lose that. Because I know at the beginning I kind of disrupted that.
I want to stick with this conversation about the line readings and stuff. Because one of my notes is like, I just wish this had more normal people in it.
Yes.
Shelley Duvall seems crazy. Even the doctors seem crazy. Scatman Crothers seems like kind of weird. And of course I know the ghosts are all supposed to be weird. But it's like even the job interviews, even the woman who was like, when he checks in and she's like, oh, do you want anything or do you want a tea or something? He's like, only if you're getting one for yourself. But even that interaction is stilted and weird.
Every interaction was weird.
Weird.
There was nothing relatable about any of these people.
Exactly.
And that was one of my biggest problems. I'm looking at every scene was so long. Every conversation was sitting in a room, talking back and forth, over-explaining every situation. Even like the tour of the hotel, like these scenes go on and on and on and on and on. I'm like, I don't need a tour of the entire hotel. But they literally did it. Every conversation, even from the beginning, that the interview process. Yeah. I'm like, do we need, like, this guy talked about the job description for like 5 minutes. I don't need to know the exact job description that he is applying for. But he just went on and on and on and on. And then the conversations with the doctor and Shelley Duvall's character sitting on the couch, and it was boring. It was like the two of them just talking and doing nothing. And I'm trying to think, I'm like, okay, it was a different time, but I feel like today when they're having these conversations, first of all, they get to the point of what they need to say. It's a quick, here we go. This is the job. You're a hotel manager. You're taking care of the hotel. No one else is going to be here. Are you okay? You don't have to explain every single aspect of the thing. But let me just the whole thought. But I feel like today there might be even more movement in the conversation. Like, it's not necessarily two people sitting on a couch looking at each other, smoking and talking. Yeah. It's maybe they're doing something. Maybe she's in the kitchen talking. Yeah. Maybe he's, shuffling papers around while they're talking, or taking a walk while they're talking. This was literally just a one-on-one conversation. Yeah, I agree, and yet I was okay with the longer scenes. I will also say, when this ended, Carl and I were like, was that 2.5 hours? Was this an abridged version? Did you feel that at all? I did not. I felt the 2.5 hours, but Matt felt the same way. I was like, he felt edited? The same way as you, thinking, wow, that did not feel like 2.5 hours. And I didn't even care for this time around. I really didn't care for the movie very much upon rewatch, but I still think it didn't feel like 2 hours and 24 minutes or 26 minutes, whatever it is. But which is interesting. Which is interesting, right? Because it's like, because not a lot happens. It's all the same stuff happening. I do, and I have to be honest. I actually think that this chase around the house thing isn't even very scary. I don't know. I didn't feel scary. I liked. I'm jumping It's okay. It's okay. But that scene with Shelley Duvall and the doctor. I completely see where you're coming from, and I found it so interesting of how quiet it was, and how they're just like talking, and it felt kind of real. The job interview, I agree, everyone's super effing weird.
but it felt like a real conversation. Like it was stilted, yes, but it felt like a job interview. I didn't mind the longer scenes. It was more the dialogue, but you're right. So like, even this is so random, but I'm going to say it because it's about a haunting, but it's What Lies Beneath.
Sure.
Michelle Pfeiffer goes to a therapist at one point. She just keeps seeing stuff, and it's her and her therapist, and it's a gray room, 2 chairs, and they're talking back and forth, and she's like she kind of loses her train of thought, and she ends up like, he's like, oh, here, have a fireball. Like she has like a hot ball, those hot ball candies. Yep. And she's like, oh, it's hot. And like, but I think that's but it's like it changes a little bit of the scene. Mm-hmm. And, even in like things, I know we were addicted to Sex in the City way back when, but they would often add like candy or drinks or pass popcorn back and forth. Something else. Because otherwise it's just two characters.
She was smoking. But aside from that...
But they would often have like, I brought Twizzlers or popcorn or things like that. And when you watch like things on I watched a lot of the commentary for Sex and the City, and it's like they do that because otherwise it's just 2 characters sitting in a room talking. Right. And you need something.
Well, and here's the thing too. I mean, it could have been my state of mind. It could have been me thinking, okay, I have 2.5 hour movie to watch, and it's we started at like 9:00. I'm like, so it could have been some of that, and just anticipating, like a lot of these long conversations happened before they even got to the hotel.
1,000%.
So I think it was 40 minutes before they even
I wasn't keeping track of that.
The hotel. So maybe it was me trying to like, okay, can we get this movie going?
But that says more about you now.
Right.
And
right.
I think that's America.
Oh,
I think
1,000%.
Like the MTV generation, everything has to be quick.
1,000%. Yeah. And that's one of the things I was thinking about when I was watching. I was thinking, well, what do they do now that isn't this?
No, there's like,
and that's the movement and the all that.
When you watch a movie now, a mainstream film, I should say, like, it's scenes. There's like scenes. Any scene that's more than a 2.5 minute scene is weird.
Yes.
You're like, oh, this is important. Like, unless it's like a sprawling action car chase superhero thing. But it's like, but often
those
it's
go on for hours.
But I feel like often conversations between people. I think Woody Allen probably still does a little bit of that with longer conversation scenes, but it's not normal like nowadays.
No, but I will say. So, and I totally agree with you. Yeah. Yes, 1,000% agree with you. But one of the movies that springs to mind is Night Mother, which we have not revisited yet. But that's literally 2 people.
And it's entertaining.
And it's still, like, you're on the edge of your seat, like, listening to this conversation. And it's just different. Yeah,
and they're doing laundry. Because they're making it, you said the word relatable earlier. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's missing here.
Yes.
Is like what makes this relatable. There is although Shelley Duvall is smoking.
Yes.
And there's like the ashes get lower and lower as she's talking, which I think is kind of a nice detail. But I think we're supposed to pay attention to the fact that she is so like okay with the fact that her husband hurt her child, and that or at least she has convinced herself that is in the past and that she's moved on from that because she's so calm.
She's so calm about everything. The fact that this child has an imaginary friend in the form of his finger.
Yeah.
And has a weird voice and things like that. The fact that this kid has no friends. The fact she's just not a good mom. She's really not a good mom. She doesn't pay attention to what he needs. She's having a conversation with the son. And he's talking about how he doesn't have any friends, right? Mm-hmm. So what does she do? She packs him up with her husband and goes to this remote hotel with 0 people. Not only no little kids, no adults either.
Right.
For 5 months?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't what he needs.
Right.
So I just question, like, even her parenting ability.
I mean, her character's pretty underwritten, too, because at one point he says, oh, my wife loves horror movies. Do you remember him saying that?
Yes.
My wife loves murder mysteries and murder mystery books and horror movies. Some line like that.
Weird thing, yeah.
She's like the least prepared I've ever seen in a horror movie. She can barely run.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I've clearly not learned anything from these horror movies.
But here's the thing. I did write Jack's a jerk even before he goes crazy. You said he's very polite and stuff. In the interview, yeah, sure. But he's really dismissive of her. I wish, not to make the movie longer, but I kind of wish that we knew a little bit more about their relationship.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
When they were in bed, like they were waking, it was like the morning, she made him breakfast.
Yeah.
And they're having like this conversation, and it did not feel like a husband and wife conversation. It felt like strangers talking. Yeah. And there was none of that connection. And I feel like that was a big thing that was missing. Mm-hmm. The connection between the two of them. I agree. Like, I feel like there should have been a little bit more of them together happy.
Totally.
Right? It didn't seem like they had a happy relationship or even an unhappy relationship. You don't know what kind of relationship they had. Because I did read any kind of that interaction.
I did read the book does a better job with her character, that she's a little stronger. She's a little more defensive and argumentative when he's not so nice to her.
Nice
yeah.
to see.
It's not so much with the movie. I do think jumping way back to the job interview, the guy who's interviewing him is like, and I wrote it down. He killed his family with an axe. I'm like, Jesus. He goes, I feel like I have to tell you this. I'm like, yeah, you do.
I think it's a law.
Yeah.
Maybe not back then.
The music that was the other big thing.
Oh,
the music.
music.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph. This is bad. At one point I wrote in my notes, this is bad. It's at one point, Christina, it's like there's nothing happening, and out of nowhere you just hear, tweak. It's like, bing. It's
terrible.
There's nothing scary is in this moment right now. Why are there like little sounds going? It's distracting.
It's so distracting, so loud.
Yeah.
I wrote, music is awful.
Awful.
It's like bees swarming.
Yeah.
That's all. It's like not even music to me. It's like.
And I'm sure.
Oh my God.
When the kid's spitting up and drooling. Oh my God. Like. It's one thing to say, well, it's trying to drive you crazy. It's like, you know what?
No,
I don't need a full sensory situation.
I can shut this off if I feel like I'm going crazy.
You know, just mute it.
But yes, I agree. The music was weird. It was a weird choice.
It actually ruins the suspense.
Yes.
Because I constantly felt like the music was doing the scary part too early before it was scary. So it's even like he hugs the naked woman from the shower, and the music's already going like weep and weep and tweep and tweep, and it's like nothing is happening right now other than he's hugging this woman. He's pent up. He's frustrated with his wife. He's and then he looks in the mirror. But we already know it's disaster because the music is telling.
It's telling.
Oh my God, the music
even
is
like the kid riding his bike through the hallways. Oh my God, it's the same idea.
It would have been so. Can you imagine that scene, like when she finds the book, right?
Yes.
And it's all the same, which is an amazing scene. I think the music is like annoying. It's like if it was just silence and she's going through all the pages over and over and over and over. But instead, that's not what you have. You have all these quick cuts. You have this music that's like beep, beep, beep.
Well, and I felt like it went on a little too long, too. Like, I'm sorry, I don't need to look at every single page of that book. It's like 500 pages, and she's looking, and it's all the same words. It's all the same. And she keeps looking and looking and looking, and I'm like, and looking and looking and looking. I know what you're going to say because Matt said the same thing. Okay. He's like, I liked it. Matt really liked it because it's all different styles and stuff like that.
It's like haikus and poetry style.
That's what Matt said too. He really liked it. And I appreciated that. Yeah. But I didn't need to see 500 pages.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. And what I didn't want was the music.
Yeah,
like if it was just her going through page by page, oh my God, it's so. I mean, it's chilling. It's good, really good. But I think the music actually ruins it. Oh man, I could not.
The music definitely ruined it. But also I questioned her because if she's looking at this and now she's scared, I don't think she would linger. That was part of the reason why I'm like, why does she keep looking and looking? Like this is something really fucked up about this guy. He's off and now he's doing this. This is what he's been typing for the past whatever. Yeah. What kind of room is that to be in typing a book, by the way?
Echoey.
It's like
huge.
The lobby
don't come
of the hotel.
in here.
I didn't understand it.
Don't come in here when I'm writing my book. It's like, don't come in here.
Like,
this place is about 7 bedrooms put together. Like, don't come in this room.
Such an odd place for him to
That
start
room is where that was that room, like 1,200 square feet. Don't come in the room.
And what did he need?
She has to get
A typewriter.
How else is she going to get anywhere? He's in the
Yes.
main.
It's like the main lobby.
Yeah, don't come in here.
It was the weirdest choice for him to even be in there in the first place. Although I did I liked that when he had the ball and he's like shucking it against the wall. I'm like, that's kind of fun. Why don't you give the ball to the kid? All he has is a bike.
Yeah, and let's see. Why must you fuck up? Okay. Yeah, at one point he says to her, why must you fuck up every goddamn thing that means anything to me? And I just wrote, A Few Good Men.
Yep.
Yeah. What is it? Like, either way, I don't give a damn as to what you think you're entitled to. I mean, it's like, just I don't know. I struggled with this so much. It's like, do I just know too much about Jack Nicholson?
I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
I think that revisiting a Jack Nicholson film, like one of his first films, is detrimental as a rewatch. Because we know so much, because he has played
He's like a larger than life movie
character.
Star.
Yeah. I think it's really, that's a huge part of it. If that was a different actor and hadn't done anything after that, right? And you went back and watched it, I think it would be a different movie for you. For me too. But I think that it would it may not stand up as well, but I think it would be better.
We have not revisited As Good as It Gets. But As Good as It Gets, I have seen in the movie theater 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah. I loved that movie. I haven't seen it in a very long time. But Jack Nicholson, that to me, that's like he won an Oscar for that, for As Good as It Gets. It's like just, hope.
Maybe we'll have to revisit
I know.
that.
I hope that has not shaken my enjoyment of that movie.
What year is that? Do you know if
I think it's 98,
Yeah.
I think. But here's something, some things that were really good, I thought.
Okay.
Delbert Grady. That conversation, so there's, he spills sauce on himself, and there's the guy that comes over, and he's certainly bring it to the bathroom to clean up the stain.
Yes.
And he finds out that the guy he's talking to is Delbert Grady. And Delbert Grady, we know, is the guy that murdered his daughters. He was the former caretaker,
Yes.
right? I thought that was an amazing performance.
That was a great scene.
Great scene, great dialogue, so scary, and I just loved it. And I'm trying to remember it with the music during that scene, but I don't remember it. But it was like, at least it was working. And maybe there was maybe there was no music. I don't know.
I feel like it was either no or low. Yeah.
And it was so much scarier because
Yes.
of that. And but I love that scene. I love that performance. That I didn't write the actor's name down. But the Delbert Grady stuff I thought was really effective.
Yes.
Like when he said, "And I corrected them."
Oh, the corrected.
Oh my gosh. And then my wife got mad, so I corrected her.
Yes. Oh, that was very cool.
Very good.
Cool.
Wendy hasn't changed her clothes in 7 days.
Yep, that makes sense.
And it doesn't even look all that comfortable.
One of the notes that I have is it felt a lot, especially at the very beginning, and the flashes, like a high school production of a movie.
Any scene in particular?
So the very beginning, when it's the cast is scrolling up, right over the drive.
The drive, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so funny. The transitions were so like choppy.
Yes.
So I thought that was a little bit off. And then even like the dialogue was, I didn't think it was very authentic. A lot of the movie, and then the cards that come up, like 1 month later. Tuesday,
8 a.m.
And it was just like a black screen with the words 1 month later, Tuesday, later, or whatever it was. I felt like a lot of time it feels like I'm watching a high school production of a movie for ELA or whatever. So I thought that was really, really funny.
I can see that. I actually didn't mind I kind of didn't mind the title cards that were like 1 month later and all that kind of stuff. I think it was good. Anything to push the story along. Yeah. But then it got almost comical because it was like Tuesday. Saturday.
4 p.m.
Yeah.
It was like, no. So I wrote down a little quote that he said, which I thought was kind of interesting. He was talking to the bartender.
Yeah.
Just a little trouble with the sperm bank upstairs.
Oh my God.
He referred to his wife as a sperm bank.
How do they refer to Scatman Crothers?
I don't want to talk about that. That was terrible.
They said it 3 times.
I know.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the N-word for anybody who's not.
Yeah, the N-word. They say N-word.
3 times.
3
just
times.
in like a conversation. Like, what?
Well, I mean...
It's
yes,
like they're two bad people.
Yeah, they're
two
like,
bad
it's the
people
ghost, like the
saying
evil ghost is telling
but
Jack
it didn't
Nicholson.
it didn't seem like
it was shocking.
it was a bad thing.
Yeah, like you don't even know enough about Jack to be like, Jack would never say the N-word. Do you know what I mean? So it almost loses its effectiveness, really.
Mm-hmm.
But it's terrible. I remember being like, oh, and of course, because I have the subtitles on.
Yes.
So I have my subtitles,
my
closed captions. So seeing that word 3 times on my TV screen is offensive. Here's the whole Redrum thing. What are you laughing about?
I'm laughing at some of these things.
The Redrum in the mirror, right? I remember that being so terrifying when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I found the scene to go on so long. And it was so annoying. And the kid going, bah, 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 bah.
I know.
And her waking up, freaking the hell out. I just thought it was like, it went on too long. And it was like really annoying.
It did go on a lot longer than I remembered it being. I thought it was more effective when there was like a flash of the Red Room. That was scarier to me than when he started writing it.
Okay.
At this point in time, I was still unsure who was the bad guy. If it was the kid, when I originally saw it. This time, because I knew it wasn't really him, it was just kind of boring. And then at one point, it was actually funny. This was a theme. We actually rewound it. At the end of the movie, I was talking to Matt about it. And I'm like, you know what? When she woke up, he was still this possessed kid. Red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum, rum. And Matt was like, no. He has like a normal voice when he starts yelling red rum. He's back into his normal self. And I was like, what? I don't think so. I think he is still kind of possessed. And we rewatched it, and he was right. So, like, in the middle of his he goes, red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum.
Stop it, Christina. You're scaring me.
And then all of a sudden he's like, red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum. And he's a kid when he's yelling it, and that's when he woke up. I didn't realize that at the time, because I'm like, she still thinks he's possessed. Why isn't she afraid of him? And he was kind of set me straight on that one. Yeah.
Do you think there would be a level of possession that would make you look like not want to hug your daughter? I don't want to make it personal.
Well, I mean, there's nothing real. I mean, no, I don't think so. But it was like almost like it wasn't addressed. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he was also holding a gigantic knife.
Yes, he's holding a big knife and he's screaming red rum. I don't know if my first instinct would be to hug.
I think she wanted the knife back.
I'm not sure. Yeah. But I just thought that was really interesting. And I thought it was interesting that the whole issue of Tony was a non-issue. It wasn't even... It's done. Like, nobody even mentions it. Like, she doesn't mention it. She's not afraid.
Probably she's not mentioning it because it's his only friend.
But at the end, when he's like... holding a knife, and he's
I don't think there's time for that. What I was surprised by...
I thought it was weird that it never even got any kind of resolve. Or no.
What really pissed me off, multiple things, but like how the ghost got him out of the freezer. I think once he starts doing that shit is really stupid because...
Why doesn't the ghost just kill her?
1,000%.
Right?
Why didn't the ghost just open the bathroom lock?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
He's trying to get in there.
Yeah.
And he's really struggling with that axe.
Yeah.
I did think...
Yeah, that was really kind of fucked up.
I did think Jack Nicholson did a good job with the axe, like busting in the main door. I was really angry, and the same with the axe to Scatman Crothers. Like, like that level of terror was really he was crazed. Like, it was really was done pretty well. But I agree. But like once you start allowing the ghost to have physical power to unlock doors and open things and do all this, then it becomes, well, why don't they just kill her?
Yeah, it would have been a lot more effective if she had propped something against the door. Mm-hmm. And then he was so crazy, he's like banging and banging and banging and banging, and like because he's completely nuts.
Yeah.
Crazy, and then like knocked the thing that was propping the door closed over. That would have made more sense to me, for sure. I was kind of cracking up a little bit because I have a little note about the artwork in Dick's room. So he's in Florida, in Miami, and he's watching the news. Oh, and this is the other thing, too. I'll go back to that in a second. Well, I'll go after it now. So he's in the room. He's in this hotel room or whatever. Yeah. And it must be his house, his apartment. I forget. I was unclear.
Yeah, I don't know.
But he's watching the news, and it pans up to this woman. It's like this portrait of this big, beautiful, black, naked woman.
Yeah.
And then you see him on the bed, and there's another picture of a big, beautiful, black, naked woman. Up behind, it's almost like black velvet or something. It was so damn funny to me. I just laughed my butt off when I saw that. That was so damn funny. But here's the thing. And maybe I missed it, what made him decide to go back up to the mountains?
So he shares a psychic link with the kid.
Yes.
And when I believe it was when the kid is having like that episode when Jack is in 237, right?
Yes.
And then is that when he starts drooling? And,
yes.
Yeah, it's like super crazy. And remember, that's when what is his name? Scatman Crothers' character's name, Dick, is laying there in bed, and that's when you see his sort of eyes start twitching, and some of his like face was getting a little frozen.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, something's gone really wrong here. The bad ghost.
So he's getting more of like an intuition type of thing.
They went into room 237. And the kid, this kid is like basically listening to like, I guess, the wrong voices. Mm-hmm. Like this kid has a special power, the Shining, and as does Dick. And so now he's like, oh no, they went into room 237 and now all hell's breaking loose.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Okay.
That he just sort of like had this intuition.
Yeah.
What? But he can speak to him in his mind. They both have this gift.
That far away?
I don't know.
I don't know how it works.
But, I mean, he asked him if he wanted ice cream without, just through his mind. But I know they were looking at each other or whatever. Right. But it would have made more sense to me if now this little kid knows that this guy has that same power. He didn't know anybody had that. He didn't know what it was before he had the conversation with Dick.
Right.
Now that he knows it, I would have made more sense if he was in the middle of this crazy attack and then sort of either by default or accidentally or even intentionally reached out to Dick and was even just like help or helped him to see what he was seeing or some sort of like for me, I would have liked to have seen that connection a little bit more, aside from just like one conversation while they're eating ice cream.
Yeah.
Like, why have that conversation? Why even have him have that ability? Like, it was just bizarre to me, but it would have been so much nicer if he had been able to reach out to him and then have him be like, oh, okay. And then try to call, and they can't call, and can't get in touch, and then have him have that feeling just like, okay, I'm gonna hop on a plane to help strangers. And
I know he landed 5 hours away.
Yes.
But that you are led to believe that this storm is, it's like,
impassable.
It's knocking out power. Yeah, it's like knocking out power. It's killed people. You find out people have died from extreme cold weather. It seems, interesting. It's still a 5-hour drive from the airport. Yeah, I don't know. It's something a little weird like that. Like, would a plane
there was
really...
a lot of time they were traveling.
Yeah, that flight wouldn't get canceled. Even nowadays, they're canceling flights for
Maybe they were braver back then.
Being honest, I don't have too many other notes. I will say, oh man, when Jack Nicholson is doing the Honey, I'm Home, and
yes.
Little Pig, and I was like, it just isn't scary. And I couldn't believe he did the whole Little Pig thing. Like, he did the whole, it wasn't just like Little Pig, let me in. It was like the whole thing. And I was just like, this is not scary to me.
It is,
it's making it less scary, I should probably say.
Yeah, it seemed more like, I don't know, jokey.
Did the killing of Scatman Crothers, the bartender, with the axe out of nowhere, did that remind you of any other Stephen King?
Yes, it sure did. Totally remind me of Misery.
Yeah, the sheriff.
Yes, of course. And I felt the same exact way. I'm like, oh my gosh, this poor guy, like innocent bystander, basically, trying to help.
Yeah.
And then he gets murdered.
Yeah.
And I wrote down, poor Dick, all that troubling for this.
Seriously, what was the other part of this was funny? Oh my god,
but yeah,
what was
I immediately thought of Misery.
Yeah. Oh crap! I was going to say something else about that. No, it'll come to me, or maybe it won't. Oh god. Oh, I laughed out loud. There's one other laugh out loud moment. So I laughed when it did 1 month later, and he had the crazy eyes and the grimace.
Yes.
I laughed out loud when it was Frozen Jack in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed out loud when. Tell me you caught this. She's in the bathroom. The night she slices his hand.
Yes.
He runs away. And you see her and she's like catching her breath. And she she seriously like realizes she has a child. Like she has what's the kid's name?
Danny.
She's like, Danny. It's like you just remembered your kid. Like she threw him out the window.
Yes. Oh my god, how frustrating that she couldn't get out the window.
Oh,
that was pretty effective. I'm like, oh my gosh.
But I think she did the right thing because I think we've seen so many movies where the person gets stuck.
Yes.
And they get and that's also ridiculous. Kind of ridiculous.
Yep.
But I have to say I don't. Oh, that was my note when Scatman calls the office, the police, and he's like, "Listen, I'm having a really hard time reaching the Torrance family. They're up there. They're stranded. And it's really making me worried." "Okay, sir. We'll call them and see if we can reach them." "All right. I'll call back in an hour." "Okay, sir." 1 hour later. "Hey, it's been a little bit now. Do you have any luck reaching the Torrance family?" And I swear to God, the cop goes, "Yeah, I know they didn't pick up." And it's like, really? Yeah. That is the depth of your investigation into this family. They could be frozen to death.
Yep.
I was really shocked that they didn't make any attempt to do that. And was the guy with that snow cat, was that the guy from Rocky IV?
Oh, was
right?
it?
He looks super familiar. I meant to Google him.
That's so funny. Yeah, I don't know. That's really funny.
Any other notes, Christina? Because that's the end of mine.
I have one note which was a little scary to me was when Tony says, "Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance."
Yes, and I would have liked it more without the music.
Yes, for sure.
Oh man, this music, guys.
So, and then what was surprising to me is, okay, her son is like possessed. She doesn't do anything about it, and she takes a nap. How can she sleep during this?
Christina, she locks him in the freezer and she takes a nap. Mm-hmm. I would be putting every stick of furniture. Well, she does run out, right? She runs out to the car. She realizes
she tries to get the car. She tries to do that. Yeah.
I know he's locked in there. Fine. I also think that's some bad acting on Jack Nicholson's part when he's locked in the freezer. But I digress. But you should be just battening down the hatches. Put every stick of furniture. Yes. Go into that room, or maybe better yet, don't go into that room because he knows exactly where you're going to be.
You can go in, go to the boiler room or something.
Yeah,
right?
Lock yourself, secure yourself, put a bunch of stuff somewhere, stay warm. Yeah. No, you don't just go into your room and take a nap.
No.
Yeah, my husband just tried to kill me. My husband said, "I am going to." What do you say? Bash your head in. What do you say to her?
Yes, I think that's... Yes, she said, yes, that's exactly what it was. But because he was... Yeah, with the bat.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I have any other notes.
Yeah, but that scene with the bat, though, 127 times. And
I did say that staircase scene was really, really good.
Oh, it's so good.
I mean, it's such a good scene.
But I just wish, he does fall down the stairs, pretty hard. But I kind of wish it just looked like she was completely exhausted from swinging the bat when she had, but when you know more about that scene.
Right.
It just, but it's like, who holds a bat that way? Okay, let's see. Oh, so just a little trivia before we get to our match game questions.
Okay.
Nicholson was Stanley Kubrick's first choice for this, but Stephen King was afraid that people would expect Jack to go crazy because he had done One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And Nicholson really wanted Jessica Lange for the Shelley Duvall character.
I think she would have been better.
So, Christina, the big question, more, less, or about the same?
I don't know. I think it has to be less for me. I didn't think it was that scary. And I felt like the production of it wasn't great. I didn't love the dialogue. It wasn't relatable. Like, there was a lot of things I just didn't find it that scary.
It really wasn't. Yeah. I wrote a lot less for me. It just wasn't scary unless your idea of scary is being chased around by someone who won't stop doing his Jack Nicholson impression.
Here's Johnny.
Do you have a match game? I have a match game.
I do have a match game.
Okay.
Let me look it up here.
I can go first if you want.
Yeah, you can go first.
Christina.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this, and this is part of the lore of The Shining.
Okay.
But there was actually another person staying at that hotel.
Really?
You're never going to believe it.
Who was it?
Dumb Dora.
Oh,
and
Dumb Dora.
Dumb Dora is so dumb.
How dumb is she?
Well, after reading a few pages of Jack's one-sentence book,
Yeah.
she asked for a blank. You see, Dumb Dora is pretty dumb. So, the book, it's the same sentence over and over. To her credit, she did read a few pages, but then she asked for blank.
Ding.
Christina, Dumb Dora is so dumb.
How dumb is she?
After reading a few pages of Jack's one-sentence book, she asked for blank.
For a vacation.
Oh my God. I had two answers. It's not a match.
Was it sequel?
I put Cliff's Notes.
Oh!
And the other one was a bookmark.
Oh.
I thought
No, well, I was thinking she's looking at All Work, No Play,
Makes Jack.
So
Oh.
she needs a vacation.
I see.
But after I wrote it down, I thought a sequel, because she's so dumb, she wants to see
what
else
happens
is gonna
next?
happen.
Yeah.
I think sequel would have been the best answer.
Oh my God. Well, The Shining, I got it from my local library.
Oh, good.
Where'd you get?
Are we all done with this episode then?
I think so.
Oh, okay. So I guess I don't have a match.
Oh my God, so sorry.
Wow.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
You know what, Brian? You are so self-centered.
All right, let's hear it. I'm so sorry, Christina.
Maybe I should.
I want to hear your match game.
Okay. Okay, so as we know, Wendy was not the best mom.
No,
she wasn't. In fact, when all was said and done, after this whole experience, she thought the best solution to Danny's problem was blank. The best solution to this problem that he has.
All right, I'm just going to repeat one word that I'm making it
Oh, okay, very good.
All right, ding.
All right. So Wendy wasn't the best mom. She thought after all that has been going on, the best solution to Danny's problem was...
Make him wear mittens.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Then Tony can't talk to him.
That's pretty good. My answer was cough drops. Because he was red from.
Throat lozenges.
And that, now.
Yes, now. I'm so
that
sorry, Christina.
Was The Shining.
Oh my God. And that's it for us and for this episode of Old Roommates.
Thank you for listening. Please remember to follow us on Instagram or YouTube, where we have our episodes as well as a little extra.
And if you have any questions about our show, any suggestions for movies we could revisit, reach out to us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com.
Thanks again for listening.
This is Brian.
And this is Christina. Until next time.